Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now it is time to introduce our main speaker tonight. It's Julie B.
Hi. I know, I'm really pregnant. I'm Julie, and I'm an alcoholic. And in 3 weeks, this is coming out of me, or tonight if I get nervous enough. So just, someone deal with that. First of all, I want to thank Jeff for asking me to speak. I'm nervous as shit. This room, wow, it's really scary to me. But he told me just to be honest, and that's the glue of AA. So I'm going to start with being honest. And if you're new, you need to honestly know I don't have the answers. The answers are in the big book. What's true is that nobody has the answers. The answers in the big book. If you hate this meeting, go to another meeting, because there's always another meeting going on. And if you hate what I have to say, that's fine. That's totally fine. Another thing that I have to be honest about, I swear like a fucking sailor, and if that's a problem, it's a problem. But I'm sober. And I'm going to give you the message of how I am staying sober and have stayed sober. God willing, it'll be 8 years, June 6th. So, crap, I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. I used to not be nervous when I spoke because I had so much bullshit to share. And also, I would do a lot of this because I had a really good ass before I got pregnant. And so I was like, I was like distracted, but now I sort of almost have boobs for the first time in my life, so if that works for you, that's cool too. What happened, what it was like. I don't have like the greatest story in the world. I mean, I didn't go to jail. I'm missing some of the big things, but I think, I've got enough to work with. Alcohol and drugs were really the last stop on the crazy train. And that's what I always share with my sponsees, with people when I'm talking. This was it. This was the last stop. I didn't pick up a drink at age 9 or 3 or whatever and discover that was the answer. For me, it was like I had this disease of nothing in my middle. For a long time, for as long as I can remember, this feeling, this needing, this real pain, and it felt like anxiety, and I treated it in any way I knew how from an early age. I would live in a world of fantasy about death. That worked for a while. Anything that took me out of myself worked. I'm a upper middle class white chick, so I forgot to eat for a few years because we do that. That's a way to stop feeling. It's also so fucking exhausting. And so then when booze came along in high school, I was like, well, that's easier. It's easier than not eating for days and days. But it's still trying to treat the same thing. It was still trying to treat the same disease of just not feeling right in my own skin. I started seeing therapists when I was 13. My parents diagnosed me because, they're professionals. My mom's a fucking crazy housewife who takes pills, and my father is just like an insane racist. But they diagnosed me with depression, which was good, because they are definitely qualified for that. And they took me to this, I'm not kidding you, Nazi pediatrician named Dr. Annie Prestaplugi, who told me, and he just yelled at me once a week. So, this was my early introduction to self-help, to getting better, was shutting down and going further in. I just thought, these people are all nuts. Like, that much I knew. I learned a lot in therapy over the years, off and on. I moved on from Dr. Annie Bresta-Bligi to some others. They told me all about how I have unipolar depression. I learned lots and lots about my mental health, but what I didn't learn was how to change it. And it wasn't until finally, not quite finally, went to a mental hospital, spent 5 months there, learned a whole lot about my mental state, but still didn't learn how to change it, never learned how to like let it go. And that's what I learned when I finally came to AA, was how do you change your life? Navel gazing rocks. And finding out all about yourself is really important, and uncovering and discovering discarding is really important, and we do it in this program. But the discarding is the part that I wasn't getting in my years and years and years with all these child psychiatrists. But let me get to the boozalog, because that's kind of fun. I drank. It wasn't that great. I got involved with lots and lots of guys, slightly better. Still not that great. One guy in particular, pretty foxy, pretty awesome, tattoos, motorcycle. You know, I mean, just he was sexy, and he did a lot of blow. And it was I wanted his attention, and he loved the blow more than he loved me. He got me pregnant. I wanted to fuck him. I mean, I still want to fuck him. I'm telling you that right now. Like, I see him sometimes. He's an actor. He's on TV, and I'm like, God damn that fucker. He's still hot. And he finally one night, I was like, I'm gonna do the blow too. Fuck it. I'm in. It was like an after-school special. You know those, like, they're like, she did one line and she was hooked. And you're like, no one does one line and they're hooked. I did. I did one line and I saw God. You know, my gums went numb. I couldn't feel the upper half of my face, and I was like, yes, and the sex was great. You know, like, I got everything I wanted that night. I got him, I got the drugs. It was over, you know, for me. I spent the next, 6 odd years chasing that high. Within a week, I was stealing drugs. I mean, how did that happen? Like, because I didn't want anyone to know. I still had this kind of, the persona of like the preppy blonde girl who wasn't gonna do anything wrong and went to a good school. And I just started really living this double life. Which is what I love about the Big Book. They talk about that. They were all actors, and we all lived this really creepy double life. But I started living this double life, and part of my life was my job, and I was successful at it, and my family and their country club lifestyle. And the other part of my life was tattooed guys and sneaking out and hanging out with prostitutes. My answer to everything was to anesthetize. And it felt so good, finally. I didn't have to not eat. I didn't have to run 700 miles. Drinking took too much time, you know? Like, drinking was, so much effort. Coke was really the thing for me. But then I started experimenting. I thought, this maybe is a problem. Maybe I should not do all this blow. Maybe the hole in my nose that was growing every day. I had that whistle, you know, that like, you just can't deny that you've got this hole in your nose. I thought I should probably not do this much blow. But I would go out to dinner with friends, and I would have one ladylike martini, and the craving would just start. I mean, and that's when I realized, oh, fuck, alcohol's a problem too. I mean, I can't drink, because if I drink, I am on the phone to Pedro or whoever it was that week. And I had them coming and going. I had 3 different drug dealers because I didn't want them to know how much blow I did. My drug dealers. It was that important to me that I maintained this, like, how it all looked. That my drug dealers, who, like, sat around in their studio apartments, sampling the goods, talking shit in their literally, like, crap-stained boxers, it mattered to me what they thought. So I had 3 of them. But I did. I tried a bunch of times to quit. I knew that I had a problem, and I tried a bunch of times to stop on my own because I didn't want anybody to know. It was really important that nobody knew and that I get away with this. My family couldn't know. My friends couldn't know. My dirty lower companions, they could know that I was using, and because I was hanging out with them all the time. But it was, they were the only people that could know really what was going on, and I planned to cut them off like a dead limb too. So I pulled some geographics. I went up to Vancouver for a while. I was working up there, and one night I was alone in, you know, my fantasy apartment with it was all windows, and I'm smoking my 800 cigarette, walking around because I have no friends and no ability to make friends because I'm not using at the time. And I found a tiny little rock, you know, at the bottom of some handbag. You know, 20 minutes later, needless to say, it did, the rock. And then 20 minutes later, I literally stood at my window and I saw prostitutes walking up and down. I'm like, whores, drugs, I'm there. And I just went and they were my new friends. You know, I didn't care if you had drugs, you were gonna be my buddy. And I was constantly working to maintain this double life. And I also thought it meant I was really a man of the people. You know, this was my, my rebellion against my preppy family. That it was, you know, I was like Jesus, because I hung out with the drug addicts and the prostitutes. It's a fucking lie. If they didn't have drugs, I wasn't hanging out with them. I was really only interested in getting drugs, and I could get them anywhere. My parents were in not a retirement, they were in a really sleepy little town in Florida. And I'd go and visit them over the holidays, and there was nothing there but, you know, Dubonnet on the rocks. And that only took me so far. I would go into bars. Oh my God, there's a small child here listening to my words. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I would go into bars and, scheisse. And I would go into bathroom. I would be with my sisters who were like wearing Lily Pulitzer wrap dresses and, you know, smoking a Merit Ultralight with a martini and going, we love this bar, there's cute boys. And I would make a beeline for the back, and I would say, I have to go to the bathroom. And I would get down and I would check every flat surface at eye level. And if I saw any residue, I mean, we stayed in the bar. If I didn't see residue, we left. My sisters had no idea why I needed to leave all of these bars. But inevitably, I would find the one bar in the Lily Pulitzer town where somebody had some drugs and could hook me up. And I was not discerning. Those were the fun parts. You know, the not fun parts, carpet farming at 5 a.m. Sucks. I mean, it really fucking sucks. And if you've been there, if you are there, if you're high right now, I know what you're feeling. I know what that was like. It was horrible. Luckily, I was still suffering, though, from my horrible depression, and therefore needed Klonopin prescribed to me by my shrink for the terrible anxiety attacks I was experiencing, brought on by massive amounts of cocaine and alcohol. And so I had a way to come down, usually. What else wasn't fun? The humiliation. I started dating a guy. He was so normal. He was a normal, nice guy, and it was like classic alcoholic. You know, alcoholics don't have relationships; they take hostages. And this guy was completely taken hostage by me. You know, he didn't know that he thought I had the occasional martini. He had no idea. I treated him like shit, and he loved it. Came back for more, and it was like I was the guy on the motorcycle with the tattoos. I was the badass. I was. What the first speaker was talking about, I was the devil. And I was like, that's me. I'm fine, I'm bad, I'm a badass. I'm treating this guy like shit, he's coming back for more. You know, I felt powerful. I didn't care. I didn't care about other people. I ran through him like Hitler ran through Poland. I was mean, and I didn't care. I was proud of myself. I thought, you know what, life is hardball. I finally grew up, you know? I'm finally grown up. I'm not the one knocking at the door at 3 a.m. going, let me in. He is. And I was really sort of proud of that. But I was still hiding from him though. And hiding from my family and hiding from everybody, my drug use. And, you know, I mean, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. Would throw my drugs out in the garbage, only to go the next day dumpster diving in my own garbage to get the drugs. Said I wasn't gonna drink anymore, so I started drinking those, and this is so gross. You know when you go to the health food store and you get the tincture of my us? And it's in an alcohol base. By the way, that's not sober. That stuff is not sober. I would drink those whole bottles. You're supposed to put 3 drops under your tongue. I would just take the whole bottle down, the golden seal in the alcohol base and stuff, because I wasn't drinking. And, you know, I'd heard about the crazy old ladies who drank vanilla extract, and I laughed at them. I was doing this sort of like new age version of that, because I had antioxidant benefits with mine. Well, I should probably get to sobriety. I always made a deal with myself, sort of in secret, that if anybody found out, I would quit. I was so good at hiding it, though. Like, no one was ever gonna find out. I had to set myself up pretty badly to get found out. And it took a few months, and it started with my sister, who's a doctor. I'd had some weird heart troubles ever since that time when I stopped eating, when I was 13 or whatever. I had funky heart issues, and she became a doctor, and she listened to my heart. She said, that's not what they've been telling you. And by the way, stop doing drugs. I said, I don't do drugs. I don't know what you're talking about. And meanwhile, she's on the phone with me, and I'm doing lines off my desk as she's speaking. And I'm like, no, I don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. And she said, you need to go to a specialist. And I went to a specialist, and then I went to another, and I went to another. I went to 3 or 4, and they all said the same thing, and that is, you need to go to the hospital right now and get a pacemaker immediately. You are almost dead, and we don't know why. One of them, though, said something really dangerous, and that was, well, we can fix this without a pacemaker. Basically, we would keep you on sort of a pharmaceutical speed. I was like, don't tell me that. Like, I've got that covered. I was off to the races, and so I bought myself a little more time, but I knew I was really sick. I knew my body was really sick. I knew the Klonopin and the cocaine combination with the vodka poured all over the whole thing. I knew it was very bad, and I knew I had to stop. So I did what I isolated. I hid. I got the pacemaker. Fucking blew. It still is in me. I don't like it. I have to get the battery changed every 7 years, like I'm a clock. But like an old lady clock, too. Yeah. And I got a pacemaker. I white-knuckled my way through no drugs for 8 weeks. I was so panicked that my family was gonna find out. I was so panicked that still nobody knew about the drugs. My sister kind of guessed, but nobody knew. Nobody had busted me. And until someone busted me, I always knew in the back of my head I wasn't done. So about 8 weeks after getting a pacemaker with still stitches under my arm, and I couldn't lift my arm, and no one would, even my lower companions wouldn't do drugs with me anymore. And 2 of my dealers wouldn't sell to me anymore. But one dealer still would. And he didn't have any morals or scruples and didn't care about selling to the girl who just had heart surgery. And thank God for him. And so, you know, like the one-armed bandit, because I couldn't really use my left arm, I was chopping lines at 10 a.m. off my kitchen table with stitches, just home from my, you know, weekly EKG. And I just knew this was bad. I knew I had to quit. And I thought, they are going to find my dead body, and this was my worst fear. My family and friends who had stood over my bed when I was getting a pacemaker going, God, this is so weird. We can't understand what's wrong with you. And I know what's wrong with me, but I didn't tell anybody. Oh, including the doctor. Never mentioned to him my little problem with drugs. I thought, I'm going to die, and they're going to stand over me, and they're going to go, that fucking bitch, that lying sack of shit. And that was my worst fear. I still had to get caught, though. So I set myself up. I was up on a 3-day bender, and I kept calling people, which was not my way. I was an isolator. And I was up for 3 days, and everybody thought I was recovering from my surgery. And I was making a lot of phone calls, and not really, I didn't black out. It was more of like a sort of like a whiteout of drugs and hallucinations and alcohol. And I kept asking people to come over, which was God. That had to have been God, because I didn't do that shit when I was high or drunk. I would isolate, like literally pull the shades, and I would crawl underneath the windows so no one could see me, like commando style with the flashlight in my teeth, because I was, you know, totally paranoid and out of control. But I started calling people, and one of them showed up, and she busted me, and she said, "What are you gonna do?" And she said, "We're gonna talk tomorrow," and she took my drugs, or I thought she did, whatever, chaos ensued. But I knew I had made this deal with myself, and I said, it's over. I know it's over, because really, was there any question? I mean, what more did I need? And I opened the Yellow Pages, and I called up Alcoholics Anonymous, and I went to the Sunday morning meeting at 3rd and Gardner, and I walked in the room, and for those of you, many I'm sure have been there, it's a big crowded room, kind of like this. There was this dude that, to me, at the time registered as a terrifying transvestite who was not in my social strata. And he gave me his seat, and I cried, and I heard people laughing, like we've been laughing tonight, about my dirtiest secrets. And I have not had a need to take a drink or do a line ever since. It was the only thing I can imagine being a bigger relief is when this freaking thing is out of me. Like, it was the biggest relief in the world to laugh. And it has continued to this day to be some of the best medicine I've ever experienced in AA, is the ability to come to meetings and laugh and hear your story or hear something you relate to and laugh, because it is pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. And when you start working the steps, you get right back into the pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. You know, when you start really sharing in an honest way with your sponsor and doing those 5th steps, there's a lot you have to face up to. And in my sobriety, the first year was, I was on a pink cloud. It was great. I was so happy that I wasn't dead, because it was scary there for a minute, and I have to be eternally grateful for all the physical damage I did to myself while I was using, because there are times to this day when I think, do I have a problem? And I'm like, oh, pacemaker, hang on, hole in nose, yeah, there was a problem. And it's a relief, in a way, to know my body's always gonna remind me of that, even if I forget. But my first year of sobriety was fantastic. I went to a meeting every day. I dated freely in AA. I went to meetings where cute boys were, and I liked it. But it was like someone had turned on a light, and that horrible snake that had been asleep in me for so long that I had numbed and nullified became awake again. And if you're new and you're going, why do I feel so uncomfortable? Well, you're no longer anesthetizing. And what you're dealing with is actual feelings again. And it was so incredibly painful. And I went through the stage that I call fuck it, eat it, buy it. You know, I was like, I felt like I had been asleep for these years, and I woke up and I was like, Hollywood rocks. And Sobriety Rock, there were these rooms full of all these really good-looking people, and they were all so honest and just wanted the best for you. And we're human, you know? And yes, I mean, you shouldn't date in your first year and all that stuff. You're gonna do what you're gonna do. And my first sponsor said to me, you wanna find out how sick you are? You go on and date. She encouraged me. She said, just stay real close. And she said, but you go ahead and you do that. And it was, I mean, I explored by my second year in sobriety, I had done every single thing sober that I had done using. And I'm not talking about like nice things, like collecting flowers. I'm talking about like, you know, fucking cameramen, just embarrassing bad things. I always had a problem. I wanted to be, you know, loved universally. And I thought that getting sober wiped my slate clean, and it did. In that first year, I was clean. I felt reborn. I was like shiny and bright, and I was really preaching the message, and I meant it. And I was like, I'm clean. I did my amends. Oh, it was hard. I was told I was the devil. I was told I was evil. I did a lot of amends where I was hung up on and told to go fuck myself. But I felt clean. I just did what I was told to do. And I felt shiny and bright. And I was involved in a relationship with a guy in the program, a wonderful guy. He's still in the program, maybe in this room right now, I have no idea. Wasn't his fault that I was crazy. And in my second year of sobriety, I stole? I don't even remember what, I think I stole fake eyelashes. Why, you know? I cheated on the wonderful boyfriend. I lied up, down, and backwards. I did everything, and now I had no excuse, and now it got really real for me because I wasn't shiny and bright anymore, and I wanted to hide, and people in the room started to know that I wasn't, you know, Pollyanna, and I was really embarrassed, and I wanted to hide, and I wanted to stay away from AA, and I didn't want you guys to know me. And I had to start working really, really hard. And that's where I started getting really involved in the 6th and 7th steps, which is, you know, that shit is hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's really hard. But this one woman that I picked out of the blue, who's a nut and ended up going out, and by the way, people go out. They can still, you can still have valued what they told you. My most recent sponsor, turns out she was out for 2 years, okay? And she was still sponsoring me the whole time. She still gave me some great fucking advice though, that whole time. We're not saints. We are not saints. The only thing you know is not going anywhere, isn't changing, is the big book and the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. The rest, it's kind of flexible. But I picked this nutty chick, and she helped me, and she explained to me that, I want to say it right. Wait, where are the steps? I don't want to fuck it up when I say it. Oh, we were admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being, the exact nature of wrongs, and we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. Well, in the book on step 7, you say, God, remove from me every single defect of character that stands in my way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. And she pointed out to me, she's like, what if all of these things, because I was like, God, take away my vanity, my insecurity, my need to fuck it, eat it, buy it, blah, blah, blah. She was like, wait. And I said, they're not going away. They didn't go away. And I was praying, it was so hard, and I was like, this isn't working. And she said, what if they don't stand in your way of your usefulness to God or your fellows? I was like, what does that mean? And it wasn't until I started sponsoring people that I started to understand that some of these things that we determine are terrible, terrible flaws in who we are the exact things that are going to help somebody else or going to show somebody else the way. I have not ever been able to kill some of my character defects. I was looking through them tonight, because I couldn't remember what they were. No, I don't know what they are. But I was looking through an old notebook of mine before I came here, and I realized there's been this huge shift, not in who I am, but in how I act. I still walk into this room. I still walk into a room at work. I still size it up in the same way. I still think, how do I get what I want out of the situation? The difference, I now know this about myself, and I don't necessarily act on it. It's a huge difference. And for those of you who were like me and were waiting to wake up in the morning thinking about nothing but unicorns and flowers and rainbows, and we're like, I wake up and I think about the hot cameraman. Like, I don't think, I'm married and I love my husband, and I think about, oh my God, I think about traveling across the world and sex with strangers, and I think about I think about them. It's okay. You can have a thought. You don't have to have the action. And that is something that I have learned in this program. This year, this year was tough. It's like really important. I want to say something really meaningful, and it's like, whatever. I'm just gonna say what I can say. My sponsor was out, and my sponsee was out, and it was like, what the fuck? And I really wanted to give up on this program because it would have been a lot easier and a lot more fun to go and just, explode my life, just throw a hand grenade in the middle of it. And I wasn't getting what I wanted, and I was being a good girl, and for the first time in my life, I was being good. I had 2 miscarriages back to back, and it's like no big deal now because I'm about to shit out like a 10-pound child, but at the time, it was absolutely devastating, and it's horrible. And to the women in the room who have been there, it's unbelievably painful. And I thought, why is God doing this to me? What kind of God is this anyway? And why am I being, picked on to suffer? And I've been good. And my friend at the time said to me, "Remember that program you're not working?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she said, you have to email me a gratitude list every morning, 5 things you're grateful for. I wasn't excited either. And it was like, you know what? It changed my fucking life. I went from crying on my couch all day long, thinking that I was never, ever gonna reproduce, to starting the morning with, I'm grateful for my coffee maker, my dog, simple things, but it changed everything. And it made me realize my feeling in this situation is I'm really miserable. My action in this situation is going to be to make a gratitude list. My feeling when they were pumping me full of hormones at the fertility office that make you horny like a dog wanting to hump a fucking doorknob, my feeling was I'm gonna have a crazy affair and my husband's never gonna know because he's too nice to ever figure it out. My action was to talk to someone in the program who I trusted very much, tell her what was going on, and have her give me some direction about which way to go with that. This is my husband's child, so it all worked out well. But it has been one of the most important things in the world to realize for me that your feelings aren't facts and they aren't emergencies. And it's something that I still get into a lot. I mean, a lot. If I have a feeling, it's an emergency. If there's a conflict, I'm gonna call you at 3 a.m. and I'm gonna talk really fast and until it's all resolved and you see my point of view. It has taken a while and will continue to take a while for me to realize that you can have a feeling, you can have an impulse, you can want to pick up a drink, you can want to steal something, you can want to have sex with inappropriate people, you can want to do all those alcoholic, shitty behaviors, and you don't have to actually do them. You can just sit for a minute. You can admit it to somebody because there is so much freedom and power in admitting it to somebody. It's an amazing thing to say, I'm not a saint, I'm trying. I still have these shitty impulses. I can't listen to the soundtrack of Trainspotting without wanting to fucking do lines all night long and like just go crazy with vodka. There are things, I'm still an alcoholic. It's still in me. And that doesn't mean because I'm not cured all the way. I don't wake up and, like I said, think about rainbows and unicorns. It doesn't mean that I can't take good action. I haven't done any of that bad shit I was just talking about. It's okay to think about it. It's okay to go, wow, that's who I am today, right now, in this moment. And it's okay to go and take the opposite action. And we do become in this program the sum of our actions. And slowly, you know, like little tiny newborn worms, we learn that when we do good stuff, we feel better about ourselves and we have self-esteem. And then maybe we don't need to sleep with everyone that we work with. And we don't need to, you know, stay at the bar all night long or whatever. So I'm gonna finish up with God, because God's what this program is all about in the end. If you're struggling with God, if you think there's been no God in anything I've just talked about, you're probably right. But if you're struggling with the idea of God, and as I was last year after the miscarriages and stuff, and was thinking, you know, what kind of God is this? And they talk about a God of your understanding. Something that had made sense to me, because I always had to look outside the program. I always had to read other literature and things like that. And it always sends you right back to the big book. It's all in here. The searching is all you need to be willing to do. You don't have to know God. That's what the We Agnostics is about. That's what the kicking the door open, the crack to be able to walk through is about. If you're willing to entertain the thought that you're not alone in the universe, that's all you need to know. That's enough God of your understanding. Don't overthink it. Keep moving. Keep doing the right action. The God is going to get revealed. No one... I hear people all the time that talk about the God they curl up with at night and the God that they make love to and the God that they have a picture of. I don't know that God, and I do not begrudge people that God, and I think it's great that they have that. Personally, I think God's a little bit more unknowable than that, but according to this book, all you have to do is be willing to admit that there's like a gap this big. That's it, that's all, and then moving on. So if you don't have a guy in a fluffy white beard who stands over your bed and makes sweet love to you every night, then it's fine. And this is the last thing I will say. And I'm sorry for those who have heard it. 2 years ago, I went to India because I needed to go to India because AA was not the answer. India was going to be the answer. It's really expensive to go to India. And I went to this ashram and I climbed a mountain and I studied the Vedanta with this man. And I did a lot of yoga and had some deep thoughts. And the guy, I went to my Vedanta study one day and I'm asking him, I'm like, but what about God? And what about getting close? And what about pain? And he goes, what you are needing, miss, is an attitude of gratitude. I went to fucking India to get this. So save yourself a couple $1,000s, light some incense, and get an attitude of gratitude. Thank you.
It's time for Secretary's announcements. Who's Jeff?
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. Shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.